Hi, I'm Patricia Grabarek.
And I'm Katina Sawyer, and welcome to the Workr Beeing podcast. Today, Patricia has an article prepared for us. So what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about humor and work-life conflict. So how humor can improve or maybe make worse the stress you feel after work-life conflict.
Yeah. So like if I experience work-life conflict and then I try to be humorous or I experience humor, what does that make it better or worse is basically what you're saying. We're going to find out the answer to.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Ooh. Well, that's kind of fun. I feel like we should have had like a, maybe we could have like a stand-up comedian on here. If it works, then we can provide some kind of a humorous break for people experiencing conflict. But if it doesn't work, we'll never say anything funny again.
Well, I don't know if that, well, I don't know. Maybe we could do that, but I don't know if we could actually do that. I feel like we always make each other laugh. Even if other people don't think it's funny, I think you're funny.
That's true. That's true. I agree. I don't think we can never give up on it, even if it's damaging to others. And maybe it already is. I just don't know.
But the best thing that you said was about stand-up comedy, and like one of the studies in this paper actually used stand-up comedy videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you're
That's
basically creating this experiment as we speak.
I remember being able to go see I didn't go see stand-up comedians very frequently, but I remember like I used to go, and that feels like so long ago that you were able to go see a person say funny things in real life.
I know. We didn't go that often either, but when we did go, we'd be like, oh man, we should do this more because it's always fun.
We would do the same thing. I know. Even like just like random, like sometimes it was funny. I've seen like some more like famous people like John Mulaney or like
good one.
and like Nick Kroll, or I saw Bob Saget.
No.
That was kind of bad. It was gross. He was gross. I like just went for the Full House factor, and afterwards I was like, I don't really ever need to see that again. That one was probably a bad one.
I don't know if our listeners know how much you love Full House.
Oh yeah, Full House is the best. And you know, I've also seen John Stamos on Broadway, and that was delightful. John Stamos on Broadway was delightful. Bob Saget stand up was somewhat disgusting, just because he says gross things a lot, and it's very uncomfortable because I just don't want him to say that.
Yeah, because you still want him to be like the wholesome dad.
I want him to be Danny Tanner. I want him to come out and vacuum the stage and like sing songs. I don't know.
I almost feel like he probably went the opposite direction because he was trying to break free of that.
That's true. That's probably true. Yeah. And did you go? No, I don't know. No. When we were at Penn State, I think it was me and Anne. Anne's getting another shout out. We saw Dimitri Martin and Zach Galifianakis and Will Ferrell and somebody else, and Nick Swartzen, and that was pretty funny.
That's a good one.
I feel like, that was like maybe that was before you existed.
I think I existed. Okay, I just wasn't there yet.
Yeah, because we went to that together, and that was fun. And I know I've been to some other shows too before, and even when you just go to like random ones sometimes, like I've been to like some, like my one friend was in improv and some of her improv shows were funny. We went to Second Story. You were there for that.
Second City.
Yes. Second Story. Chicago. What's that? Oh, that's the name of a cafeteria in my college.
Well, I haven't been there. I'm sure it's delicious, but
it's not. It's just a college cafeteria. But Second City.
But yes, Second City in Chicago, we did do that. That was really fun. Yeah, we've done. Gosh, I'm like the worst. I have such a terrible memory. I'm sure if like Danny was listening to me right now, he'd be like yelling at me as to who we've seen because I like can't think of names of people right now. But we also have done like just like randomly be like, oh, let's just go to the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store or whatever. And just kind of would go on random nights. And if people, especially if people are in town, we'll just kind of like decide. I mean, the comedy clubs on Sunset Boulevard are like a thing. So
yeah, in LA, you have like actually like really good people that go there just for that.
Yeah, and sometimes people will just pop up on a show like that wasn't supposed to be there, and
That's fun.
so that's kind of fun. But then there have definitely been some nights where not everybody has been stellar, but
right.
I think that's normal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we were when we went to see Nick Kroll and John Mulaney do this show called Oh Hello. They would bring up like a person that they were supposed to be pranking in the middle of it, but usually it was a celebrity. And I was so mad because the night that we went to go see it, they didn't have anybody. They just like brought up a random audience member, and it was funny. But I really wanted to see like a person. And then the next night they had Paul Rudd.
Oh no!
And I was like, what? I was so mad. I was like, I have been mistreated. Like I was like, I don't understand. Like I was so sad. I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah, me too.
He's one of the best.
He is funny.
One of the best.
He is lovely.
But yeah, I'm interested in this humor idea because I feel like, especially during quarantine, I've been feeling like humor. I know that this is about conflict. It's not about just like generally do you like humor, but I feel like I've been gravitating so much more towards just like funny shows since quarantine started because I feel like my brain just needs to like breathe.
Totally agree. I feel like I have been watching a lot more comedies and fewer dramas and things. Not like I'm always super into heavy dramas, but
yeah,
I feel like more frequently I would have a balance between the two. And I feel like during the past year, I've been mostly wanting to watch something funny.
Yeah, or just like something happy, like light. Like I don't want to be like, oh, like murders and mysteries, and I'm like, I already feel like I like have enough to like think about right now. I don't really need to like worry about like this like random fake story of like people going through a terrible time.
Right. And that's like Schitt's Creek is like the first thing I got into during quarantine, and I was like, I was sad that I never watched it I never watched it live, but I'm also really happy that I did it because I got to watch all of it at the beginning of quarantine.
Yes, we did the same thing. And like that is such a delightful show. And that was great. We've just been watching like very like light, like happy things. And like we do so Brendan does like a row machine is his like workout, and he'll watch like a TV show while he does it to like pass the time. And he's always watching like either like crime scene shows or like now he's watching like The Sopranos, or he'll watch like there was one he loves The Wire, and there was one that the director of The Wire made called like Generation Kill or something, and I was like, I don't want to watch anything where like I like hear it like the basement doors open and it's everybody like wah! And there's like guns and people are like I hate you, and everyone's like crying, and I'm like, I don't need this. Like this is not I'm like, this is not the energy that I need right now. I just can't handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm leaning the humor side too, for sure.
True. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited. So I feel like I'm like, I want to just like know like, but is humor bad for me? Am I doing myself a disservice?
No. So there's some mixed results here, but nothing in this study says you should not watch funny TV. So there you go. Good. You've got a win there. But yeah, let's dive in. So This article is called Finding Humor and Work-Life Conflict, Distinguishing the Effects of Individual and Coworker Humor. And it's written by Cheng, Amarnani, and Farivar in 2021. So it's brand new.
Okay, cool.
In the Journal of Vocational Behavior.
Nice.
Yes. So it is a new study, and it really talks about the two concepts of work-life conflict, which we've talked about many times, but really it's really around where you're seeing that the pressures of, your work are impacting your life and creating some sort of stress and conflict, right, between your two domains, work and life.
Yes.
Humor is, I feel like it's funny to define humor, but I did write it down just in case. And really it's what you would think it is. So they defined it as anything that people think, say, or do that may be perceived as funny and tends to make people laugh. So, yeah. So kind of what you would think of humor. Nothing too unique in that definition. And in previous studies, so before this study, when they were talking kind of in their literature review, there's research that shows that using humor can ease the burden of job strain and distress. And generally, humor has actually been very beneficial for coworkers. So humor can help increase performance, can improve workplace communication and workplace relationships. So there's a lot of positives with humor, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're coming into this with like a positive bent towards humor, saying mostly we think that this is a good thing, but there's a possibility that it might not always play out that way in this conflict domain.
Exactly. Yep. So then if you're thinking about humor, like when you're dealing with stress, it's kind of a coping mechanism, right? Mm-hmm. So it can be used as a coping mechanism that helps you make light of something that's stressful, to feel better about it, think a little more positively about the situation. So that's what going into it, they're like, okay, so being able to joke about the stress that you're feeling because your work and your life are having conflict is fine. Like, that should help you, right?
Yeah.
Well, what did they find? So let's talk about what they found, because I think I'm just going to dive right in because there's a lot to unpack that we can talk about, but it's a pretty straightforward results, if you will. They have 3 studies in this paper. So the first study, they really look at the videos that I was talking about. So people watched either a boring whatever video or a stand-up comedy video. And the stand-up comedy video was about family and work conflict. So it was specific content around these types of conflicts. So people would write either about a day where they had work-life conflict or they didn't have any conflict. So they were told, okay, one group said, we want you to write about a time where you felt like your work and your life were in conflict. And then the other group, they said, don't write about a random day, not about that. They don't even prime them for that. And then after they do that, then they ask them to watch a video. And it was either a test video or the stand-up video. And they were measuring stress to see how that impacted them.
Okay. So there's 4 different conditions. So either you thought about a conflict and you watched a funny video, or you thought about a conflict and you watched a boring video, or you didn't think about a conflict and you watched a funny video, and you didn't think about a conflict and you watched a boring video.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So that was the first study. And then the second study is where they measured this in more of a true business setting, where they looked across 3 different time periods, measuring work-life conflict. So asking people questions like, I have to miss work activities due to the amount of time I have to spend on family responsibilities, or vice versa. They measured coping humor. So are they a person that finds that their problems feel reduced when they find something funny about them? Then they measured stress, and they also measured coworker humor in this one. So whether or not people are telling humorous stories to ease tension, things like that.
Okay. So in that one, they're basically asking you, how much conflict do you have? How much do you use humor as a coping mechanism? How much do your coworkers use humor? And then how stressed are you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So time 1 is they looked at the conflict and your use of coping humor. Time 2 was how stressed you were and whether your coworkers were using humor. And then time 3 was turnover intention. So seeing if people wanted to leave their job.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. So that was kind of the ultimate. Stress is important because it's going to lead you to want to get out of there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they had a final study 3, which included basically everything that was in study 2. The only thing they did is they added a coworker support measure. So seeing if there was an impact of how supportive the coworkers are, if that changed whether or not you saw humor as a bad thing.
Okay,
gotcha. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so I might view my coworkers' humor differently if I know them well and feel like they're a supportive person.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So I'm curious to know, what did they find?
Yeah, so you could probably guess by the fact that in study 3 they added coworker support that there was not positive results in study 2.
Right.
But let me just break it down as we go. So the first study, they found that work-life conflict led to stress, which we would assume, right? So they're thinking about a work-life conflict situation. They're feeling stressed out. But then if they watch that humor video, they actually experience less stress than if they watch the control video. So seeing that humor video, then they kind of forget about the stress they were thinking about and feel better than if they were just watching a control, boring, whatever video.
So it seems like the idea of, I was saying, watching a funny TV show or something, although the content you said was specific to work-life conflict, but maybe if it was like a sitcom about a family, I don't know. But like something like that seems to have sort of more of the positive impacts that we know humor to have from the past literature.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that was study 1. So study 2, when they looked at people who used coping humor, so like kind of why they used that video that was a stand-up comedy video around work-life issues is because they're assuming people are going to use humor as a coping mechanism. Like, I'm going to joke about the fact that I'm having these stresses, that I can't get anything done because my kid keeps interrupting me. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm clearly made for stand-up comedy.
That was a really good set.
I know.
Go on down to Sunset and make your mark. Yep.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna get famous and just like ditch this podcast and
my kids, right? Ah. No, it was a good. I'm sure if you had time to write a set, it would be good. But
I don't think that's true. But anyway,
so they're trying to like mimic. With the video, they were trying to mimic like what you would do, except you're watching another person. And now they're actually saying like, okay, you're the one that's making the jokes as a way of coping with this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what they found is that people that said that they use coping humor, they actually felt less stress from work-life conflict than those that didn't. So if I answer the questions about coping humor, saying like, yeah, I will often find the humor in my negative situation. And I think it eases the situation. I think I feel better afterwards, blah, blah, blah. Then they do see that they feel less stressed from the work-life conflict. So individually, it's a good thing. If you can make light of your own situation, yay, good.
Cool. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and that actually led to less intention to turnover. So that them saying that they, basically if you can make light of the situation, you're going to feel less stressed and you're going to be fine in your job. You don't necessarily want to leave it.
So in that situation, you're in control of the narrative. So it's basically like I am making jokes about my work life, but I'm curious to see what happens if someone else makes jokes about it, because then I'm not in control of the narrative and I might be like, that's not funny. I'm actually stressed and I don't find that enjoyable.
Yep. Well, you're right. So people who said that they experienced high coworker humor felt more stressed from their work-life conflict, which led to them more likely wanting to leave their job.
Womp, gotcha.
Womp.
And did they, when they asked the questions about the coworker, was it the same sort of thing? Like they're just making like the questions on the survey were like, does this person make jokes related to your work and life conflicts? Is that what it was?
No, they're kind of broad, so that's kind of an interesting piece too. So it says the example question they gave was, we tell humorous stories to ease tense situations at work.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder if people think that they're funny, but they don't think other people are funny.
Maybe.
People are like, I like my own jokes, but like these jokes I don't need. And they're taking up my time. I don't have any time. And now I have to listen to your jokes.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, they're basically theorizing that, if kind of what you were saying, the control of your narrative. I mean, I wouldn't say this is a perfect measure of that, but their theory is that if you're dealing with work-life conflict, like people making light of work situations when you're feeling stressed out makes you feel like, well, it's not a light situation, right? Like I am stressed out. This isn't a funny thing.
Right.
So that's what their theory is. But yeah, basically if they said that they experienced high coworker humor, then they felt more stress from their work-life conflict, which led them to have more intentions to turn over. And then this is why they did study 3. So they wanted to see, all right, so we know that, great, we understand that people that are telling jokes about themselves or using humor for coping, or they're watching a video, they're good. But what is going on with this coworker thing? And so that's why they measured coworker support in the 3rd study. And what they actually found was that more coworker humor. So if I said that there's more humor within my coworkers, I think that my coworkers support me less. So it was associated with lower coworker support.
Are they like getting made fun of? That's so interesting. Did they bring that up, that like it could be like malevolent humor?
They didn't bring that up, but I think that there's potential for that for sure.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a lot of teasing in the work
Yeah.
environment or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that could be something that people are like, oh, they think they're being funny, but like I actually don't think they're funny.
Yeah, and also like the example question they gave for coworker support is my coworkers go out of their way to make my work life easier. So like maybe if your coworkers are just making jokes about stuff, they're not, even if they're not malicious jokes, maybe they're not then also trying to help you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, oh, it's like, oh yeah, my kids also, I don't know, need my time.
We're back to your set again.
My really good joke telling. I don't know. Whatever. They make some joke about the situation. And then, but then they don't like actually do anything specific to help you, right?
Well, I can think about that because like, I don't know if this is the same thing, but I've definitely had coworkers who I felt like were time wasters in the sense that like they spent a lot of time talking about like, this is what's going on in my life, in your life, or whatever. And like, maybe they're being humorous about it, but like it actually takes up a lot of time. And you're like, no, like I need to get things done. Like I'm happy to have a conversation with you at another point, but like I'm actually stressed and I need to get things done. And I don't really want to like stand here and like have any conversation. You know what I mean? Like like it could be that it's viewed as like a time waster. And yeah. And like, especially if you're like you're saying, if they're also saying like, yeah, and they don't really help me, then it's like, okay, maybe you're just like, you know, I don't mind jokes in general, but like a bunch of jokes when I have stuff to do, I'm not that into.
I think that's a really solid point. I think we could probably ask someone to study this at some point because I think that is a question mark to me too. Like they basically talked about how it's making light of a stressful situation and then employees feel less supported. And I agree that that's possible, but I think that you're right too. Like it could be, well, it's not that they don't feel supported because you're making the joke. It could be that they don't feel supported because all you're doing is making jokes and you're not doing anything else that's useful. You know, it could be completely a different reason there as to why they're not feeling that support either. So
yeah,
I do find it interesting. But yeah, I mean, the main takeaways here, like, it's a good idea for you to ease your own tension with some humor. Like, watch that funny video, or, you know, you can, if assuming your coworker is not going to then go and make a joke too, you can make a joke about your own situation.
Right.
But then, yeah, it seems like the focus really should be for leaders and coworkers to support each other, but not joke about it.
Yeah, it seems like, and maybe if your coping is like humor focused coping, you don't have to do that with your coworkers. So you could like go home and like with your like partner or roommate or whoever, your mom, like you could like joke about the stuff that's going on, but it doesn't need to be directed towards your coworkers. So they're not feeling the same way about you. Like, hey, I'm not really like in need of all these jokes. And I think because it's like specific to conflict, it's also like, okay, we're talking about joking while people are having like, this is true as people are having high conflict, right? So it's like, we're talking about making jokes at a time when somebody really is feeling like underwater. Whereas if you're like at like a, you know, lunchtime or something and you're having like a normal day sitting with your colleagues, I'm sure if people say like things that are humorous, you're not just like going to sit there like Wednesday Addams and like stare at them. Like, I'm sure that that's like probably fine, but it seems like it's just like, if I'm stretched thin, I don't really appreciate people making light of that situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot to unpack in this study. I think there's a lot that can be done to really understand it further, but I agree. Like, yeah, when you're having a break time with people, it's probably a different situation than if you're just in a meeting and you're stressed out and then someone just keeps joking about work-life stuff or whatever it is. Right. You just might feel like your time is being wasted, like you said. I think that's probably part of it. So I think the big takeaways, like you said, are if you want to joke about it, if that's a mechanism that works for you to cope with the stress that you're in, then try to take it outside of the workplace where you're able to do that, and then support each other in the work environment in terms of trying to help reduce stress in a more supportive way versus a humorous way.
Yeah, like maybe if you're helping someone and while you're helping them, you're making jokes, like that's a good 1-2 punch. Like you're being humorous while you're actually taking stuff off someone's plate or like being useful to them. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's always like somebody in the office that like roams around and doesn't do much, but like talks a lot. And I feel like
Yeah.
those people are usually not like, no one like thinks they're bad people, at least in my experience. Nobody's like, oh, that person's a bad person. Like, I hate that person or something. But they get irritated because they're like, you know, I'm trying to do stuff and you're like hanging out in my office door telling me stories or like cracking jokes. And like, I actually need you to go because I had like things I was supposed to do during this period of time. And now you're just like standing here. So that's like sort of what I'm thinking of is like you would rate that person low on support and high on using humor, but you wouldn't necessarily think that they're helping you feel better.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder if like I don't know, I could also see a situation, and now we're just like making up situations and trying to figure out how it feel, but I could also see a situation where like I use coping humor to help me get through stress. So like maybe I'm really busy and I'm asking about a deadline from my team member and saying something like, oh, like, when is this due? You know, I've got all these kids at home and I don't know what to do with them. There's my joke again.
So many. Where'd they all come from? I opened the door one day and they all ran in.
Okay, I'm gonna like lose it, but anyways, so okay. Well, I'm glad in our humor episode we're both laughing a lot at my stupidity. But anyways, so let's pretend you're good at making jokes in that situation, and you make a real joke. Yeah. And then, like, what if your coworker, like, holds on to that and then just keeps joking about it? And then you're like, okay, all right. Like, I made, like, a little quip about it, and then I want to move on. I don't want you to then continue to make light of it when it's actually stressful for me.
True. It's like if you can be, like, you know, people that, like, you care about. Like, you could be like, oh, my husband's annoying. But if someone else is like, yeah, your husband's really annoying, you're like, shut up.
Yeah, exactly, though. I think it could be. I think it could be like that. It's like, well, no. You don't get to actually joke about my work-life issues.
That. Right.
But exactly. I can joke about it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it could be a lot of stuff. But I think the good news for me is that I don't need to stop watching my humor shows. I can continue watching them and they can provide me some benefit. And I guess, you know, if you think about it, maybe in work or in life, if you're not going to help somebody that's stressed, then you probably shouldn't take up any of their time by joking either. Like, pick to help them, and then maybe you buy yourself some, you know, maybe as you're doing that, you can make it a nicer environment by joking around. Someone would have to study that. But, like, if someone's stressed, the best thing to do is to help and not to try to joke.
Yeah, agreed. Don't take up an entire meeting joking around when you know they've got a lot on their plate. Just move past it. No jokes. No amazing sets like mine. Need to
don't be talking about there's so many kids. Where did all these kids come from?
They just appeared.
Am I right? I've lost count. Yeah, so
oh man. Okay. Whew, I'm getting it together.
But yeah, I feel like that's probably what it is. Yep. I think we solved the puzzle, even if that's not what they said. I feel like we solved the puzzle. So if you're like a leader, I think a good takeaway for this is that if you know that your team has a lot going on, to try to be more efficient and helpful and to support and to like help others to be more efficient and helpful and like get rid of the work before you're trying to like have this like camaraderie-ish environment.
Yeah, exactly. I think really focus on how can you take things off people's plates to reduce that stress, really is what it is. Or, you know, help at least give them the support they need to get that done, to get things done, to get things moving. And then I think, you know, we do know, like I said earlier, that from the research, we see that humor is a good thing, but it's probably in the correct context. So if you're having lunch with your coworkers, you probably don't need to be like super stoic. I think it's okay to laugh and make some jokes, but it's different when you're dealing with someone that's handling a lot of stress in this conflict, and then you just like take their time by joking around too much. So
yeah,
I think that's a good takeaway. Like leaders can really focus in on making sure to create a constructive environment where people can be productive and get what they need to do done. And then when there's some downtime, humor can definitely, come in as it makes sense, but not to make it too much of a thing when people are really stressed out.
Tasks first, humor second. But if you're feeling stressed and you want to take a little bit of time to watch like a funny YouTube video or something, have at it because it's your choice. But if you're doing it to someone else, they may not appreciate it as much. Task first, humor later.
Yep. That's the takeaways. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was a fun article. I thought it was interesting to see that coworker humor affected people the way it did. So
yeah,
I think it's good to know.
A good caveat. Do you have one more joke for us before we go?
I don't think so. I mean, I could just talk about like, I don't know. I'm just going to stop. It's going to be very embarrassing. Whatever I say is going to be terrible. So we're going to stop.
Okay. I thought maybe I could get one more out of you. It's all right.
Well, I'm glad that you found humor in my jokes.
I did. We should end this episode with one of those noises. We'll get Allie to put it in. That's like, ba-dum-bum. That should be like the end of it. We'll get Allie to edit that in.
Oh, man. Yeah, ridiculous. But anyways, clearly I am not the company comedian. I was never a class clown. That is not me.
You're very funny, but it was just that all of your stand-up jokes had like this content about the number of children that you had.
I think there's a difference between being funny and like a casual conversation, keeping things light kind of way, and trying to tell a joke. That is telling a joke is not my strong suit.
Well, I mean, you also had no time, so it's okay. We're going to give you a pass on it. I was made happy. I don't care what the article says. I was made happy by coworker humor today. I enjoyed that a lot. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad, and hopefully everyone else did too.
Yes.
At least thought that our laughing at it was funny.
Yeah.
We were being silly.
They're laughing at us and not with us, and that's fine.
Yeah, whatever makes you laugh, we're down. We're fine.
We'll take it.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, we I don't know. Thought it was a good article, and we'd love to hear from all of you. If you have any thoughts, any jokes you want to share with us. Ooh, I kind of want some jokes. Maybe I can make my joke telling a little bit better. So feel free to send them to us. You can email us at contact@workrbeeing.com. You can find us on our website, workrbeeing.com, and on social media at Workr Beeing on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And as a final little plug, we have our free Managing Stress course available online. So you just go to our website, find our courses there. It's completely free, and it can help you manage your stress, which obviously we've been talking about stress. I wouldn't say it's humorous.
It's free of jokes, completely free and completely free of jokes. Don't worry.
Yes. No jokes, but it is free content. So there you go.
It is. That's true.
So go check that out. And thank you so much for listening. The Workr Beeing podcast is hosted by us, Patricia Grabarek
and Katina Sawyer, and produced by Allie Johnson.